Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today I'm going to be talking about Dungeons & Dragons and the impact of seeing Matt Mercer's Critical Role game as your first introduction to Dungeons & Dragons. And guess what? The impact is not good, right? Now, the idea for this, talking about what it means for many, if not most players, new players today, to be being introduced to Dungeons & Dragons by watching a Matt Mercer Critical Role game. What does that mean for how you, as a potential player or a potential dungeon master, what does that do to your outlook of the game, right? And your capability and your potential of playing the game, right? Now, I want to give credit where credit is due. This idea and this understanding of the difference of this really critical, hugely important difference that we have now in Dungeons & Dragons and how people are being introduced to the game comes from Cody from Taking 20. He just absolutely caught fire, right? In a good way on this one particular video he did. It's called Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition is Killing Role-Playing. It's brilliant. He recently did it on Taking 20. It's Cody's, and Cody brought this idea out of that really most players. So here's what Cody's saying is, he's saying many, if not most, players are being introduced to the game through Critical Role now. It is by far the largest, best, most extensive, most persistent advertising the game has, right? And so if you're coming into Dungeons & Dragons, it's likely you've seen Critical Role before you start playing. And I think he's 100% right. For new players, I think that is the path to Dungeons & Dragons most of the time, right? I would say like 51% or higher are coming to the game through Critical Role. I really think that is correct, right? And that's because of the power of YouTube. YouTube is incredibly powerful. It's world class. It's a world class video platform, and Critical Role is some of the best material on YouTube, and certainly within the TRPG community, it's absolutely top tier content, right? So Cody made this really good point. He's like, okay, remember when you were coming up and how you were introduced to the game, right? So you might have seen it on the shelves in Barnes and Nobles. A friend of yours might have said, hey, let's play Dungeons & Dragons, and you had no idea what it was. And then that person, then you joined your friend, right? And they ran this super jank game that you didn't really even know was jank until years later, and realized that the person that, your DM got half the rules wrong, did not write a good story, and did not do a good job acting the NPCs, right? And I think, and then also back in the day too, you might have seen Dragon Magazine somewhere, and then bought the red box somewhere, never even seen the game run, ran the red box yourself, and did the same thing. Got the rules wrong, wrote a terrible story, and did a terrible job acting the NPCs. And that was most people's introduction to Dungeons & Dragons even 10, 15, 20 years ago, okay? But it is completely different today, right? So one, ain't nobody hanging around in Barnes & Noble anymore, right? There's a few people, but not many, right? And you're far more likely to have watched a YouTube video than you are to have been into Barnes & Noble this week, right? And the other thing is, there's no Dragon Magazine on the shelf for anybody to see, and there isn't even there isn't a red box, right? Those things don't even exist, right? So, and then the third one is your friend asked you to play Dungeons & Dragons, and then did a terrible job of it, right? Like, that one still happens a little bit, right? But far more likely, somebody's introduction to Dungeons & Dragons is watching, right, Matt Mercer run Dungeons & Dragons for the Critical Role campaign, and that is their introduction to the game, okay? Now, being a dungeon master and being a player has always been daunting. It is really completely non-intuitive. It requires intelligence, it requires creativity, and it requires artistry. And here's the golden magical ingredient, right? Those first three, okay, you can find people. One, it's not easy to find people who are intelligent, creative, and artistic, right? But those are requirements to play Dungeons & Dragons. No two ways about it, right? But the last one is the absolute magic ingredient that you need, And that one is you can't be a dungeon master without it, which is confidence, right? And that one is in incredibly short supply today, incredibly short supply. And also, guess what? Being an artist often means you're not confident, right? Like those two things are twined together with like a braid, right? So it is incredibly difficult to find, so when you're coming to Dungeons and Dragons, right, you are this intelligent, creative, artistic person who has confidence, all right? And I'm betting you're missing one, right? And most likely you're missing confidence, right? So you're feeling really daunted as you're trying to move into doing Dungeons and Dragons. Well, in the old day, this was much less of a problem because whoever was teaching you the game was pure crap at running the game, right? And that was okay because I've done an entire video on this. A bad game of Dungeons and Dragons is a pretty darn good thing, right? That's this whole topic, right? But it's okay to run bad Dungeons and Dragons, especially at the beginning, right? And in the old days, we ran bad Dungeons and Dragons all the time, and everybody was nobody really understood how bad the games were, and we were all having fun, and it was okay because we were all. These bad games was a door we were walking through to reach good games, right? Well, it is completely different now, okay? People are coming up seeing Matt Mercer's Critical Role for the first time. This has incredible impact on the game. Incredible impact on the game. Matt Mercer knows the rules, right? Not only does Matt Mercer know the rules because he's read them and he's an intelligent person, but he's been running the game for they're coming up on 2-3 years now, right? And guess what? Every mistake he's ever made, every time he runs a game, he's got 55 looky-loos going, oh, you got the 2-weapon fighter wrong there, Matt. Here's how it's done right? So not only has he always known the rules, but he's getting very, very good at knowing the rules and knowing how to use them, because every time he does anything wrong, it's public and he's told that was wrong and he's got to fix it, right? So he's very good at knowing the rules and he's getting better. Matt Mercer is capable of writing good stories, right? So he's writing great stories that he's telling. His story is so strong, they recently released Tal'Doria Campaign Setting Guide, which, get this, the Tal'Doria Campaign Setting Guide is probably the best setting book ever created for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, which is what? Why would some third-party content creator make a better setting book than Dungeons & Dragons? Well, here's the reason why. Dungeons & Dragons isn't making setting books, right? With the exception of Guilds of Ravnica, which we still don't really know what that book is going to be. We'll see. Is it just a real setting book? Or is it just another adventure book disguised as a setting book? We're going to see. All right. Here's the last one. Acting, right? When Matt Mercer and his players in Critical Role act out their NPCs and their player characters, well, guess what? You're watching Hollywood grade voice actors, right? And and some of them have even been in non-voice acting projects. They've done work on video games. They've done work on movies. They've done work on television shows. They've done work on on multiple animated television shows. These are professional grade Hollywood actors, right? So when you're done watching Critical Role, right? Unlike back in the 80s and 90s when you're like, oh, well, Sally just ran that crap game of D&D for me. I can run a crap game of D&D. When you get done watching Matt Mercer, you're like, oh my gosh, what the heck? How am I going to do this, right? And guess what? You're right. You have virtually no chance of ever being the dungeon master that Matt Mercer has created himself to be, and then been honed by the entire industry of both Hollywood and the TRPG industry, with thousands of fans giving him advice, right? You don't have a hope and chant. You don't have a chant. You don't have a prayer. If you're starting your D&D game now, and Matt Mercer is your bar, right? You are done. You are finished. You are never going to run anything close to what he runs, right? Because even if you learn the rules, even if you master writing adventures, how are you ever going to bring forward an entire cadre of Hollywood grade voice actors? You're never going to do it. So this, like, so, and this is Cody, right? Cody pointed to this, right? And he's right. These poor new players are being introduced to the game at a level they can never, ever, ever, ever match. And they know it. And they know it, right? So whatever shred of confidence they were bringing to the table, in some ways they're right to lose it or to allow it to be reduced, right? This is changing the shape of Dungeons & Dragons. Matt Mercer's impact on the game is like a comet, right? Now, I think what's happened, I think Matt Mercer has hit Dungeons & Dragons, and in some ways, tabletop role-playing games overall, like the comet hitting the Earth that killed the dinosaurs, right? And that's what, and the dinosaurs are the old D&D dungeon masters that were running those crappy games, and everybody's like, I can run a crap game just like you did, right? Now, here's the thing. It's terrible to see all the dinosaurs die, right? But what happened after that, right? Well, there was lots of, there was a huge burst in what was growing on the planet, and, we have this situation where that comet hitting the Earth was certainly not the end of life, and things flourished. Right? And that's exactly what we're seeing here now, right? But Matt Mercer is a comet hitting Dungeons and Dragons, right? Like, I have so much sympathy for these poor new players coming up and seeing Matt Mercer's Critical Role game as their introduction to Dungeons and Dragons, walking away from that, being inspired to run Dungeons and Dragons, and then 1-2 punch, right? Like, 1, I'm inspired. 2, oh crap, I'm never going to be able to do what he's done, right? And they're right. There's virtually no new players out there who are, I would say, less than 1%. Less than 1% of 1% will ever run a game that matches what Matt Mercer is doing right now, and the biggest part of that is, who's going to be able to bring forward an entire player character group of Hollywood grade actors. It's not going to happen, right? So it's really an incredible turn, and it really gives us a lot of thought. One thing I think is interesting is how the community is responding to this, right? So there are a lot of people talking to new players and saying, listen, here's the thing. So a lot of people recognize this. Wizards of the Coast recognizes the problem. The TRPG existing dungeon masters recognize the problem, and D&D commentators recognize the problem. And they're all going to the new dungeon masters and the new players, and specifically, let's talk at the dungeon master level, the new dungeon master, and they're talking to them about 3 things. They're talking to them about the task, they're talking to them about the person, and they're talking to them about the outcome. And everybody's got a different take on this, right? So here's the issue, right? I watched both Satine Phoenix and Kate Welch deal with this, I think, right after Origins in a video, which was really interesting. And both of them really came out from the perspective of saying, oh, the task, it's not that hard. Wrong. Super hard, incredibly complex, right? And then both of them, with just the love in their heart, were like, and you can do it, right? Saying to all those new DMs, you're capable, right? Wrong. They're not capable. They're going to stink at this. And it's not their fault. It's just that they need intelligence. They need artistry. They need creativity. And they need confidence. And the vast majority of them lack confidence, and the game is going to be pure. And they are not capable, right? They are missing some parts, right? And then last, each one of them were like, it's going to turn out okay. It's going to be great. Don't worry about it. No, it's not. It's not going to turn out okay, right? So, yeah, they're reassuring people that the task isn't that hard, reassuring people that they're capable of doing it, and reassuring them that the outcome is going to be great. It's going to be just fine, right? And the reality is, and I'm at the other end, right? If you're a new DM, I'm going to tell you this right now, right? It is insanely hard and incredibly difficult, right? You are not ready. You are not capable of doing this, and the outcome is going to be terrible. And you must proceed. You must proceed to do it, right? The task is hard, you're not capable, and it's going to turn out bad, and you have to go through it. Bad games are the door you must walk through to get to good games, right? And I will admit, and I'm going to say, I have much empathy for every new Dungeon Master out there, because it is harder for you to do it today than it has ever been because of Matthew Mercer. You have seen a level of a game that there is a 99.99% chance you will never, ever match, right? And so, but here's the thing. The reason why you should walk through the door of bad games in order to reach the good games is, one, it is worth it. You will get, after you've run 20, 30, 40 games, you will come out the other side with lifetimes of friends, with a tolerance for complexity that is so high it will help you in every job you ever get, with the ability to craft a narrative on the fly, right? With the idea in your mind and your heart that you are the master of 1,000 worlds, right? And that 1,000 worlds live within you, and the only issue is to get them out, right? It will being a dungeon master will be a fundamental change to your character, to you as a person, right? It'll be one of the most enriching experiences you've ever had. But don't let anybody tell you different. The task is hard. You are not capable of it now, and it is not going to go well when you start, okay? But none of those are an excuse not to start. You must gird your loins, right, and move forward, right? You have to go, right? You have to get ready for battle, jump in, and take the hits and get the scars. It's the only way to become a good dungeon master. And last thing I'm going to say is I have to say a big thank you to Cody of Taking 20. I did not see this. I did not see what Matt Mercer's game was doing to new dungeon masters and new players. It truly is a huge impact on the Dungeons & Dragons community, both good and bad. Matt Mercer, what he's doing is good and it is bad. I saw, and it's both. It really is. The hugely difficult task of being a dungeon master has become even more daunting than it was before. It's truly, truly incredible insight from Cody of Taking 20. Go check out that Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition is Killing the Role-Playing video. Pretty incredible stuff. And thank you. I'm really curious of what you think. Please consider liking and subscribing. Thank you very much.